ICPC, the Anti-Corruption Commission, is watching you. If you're reported for any corrupt practice, you'll be investigated, prosecuted, and punished. Corruption is harmful to our nation. Join the campaign against it by reporting any corrupt practice to ICPC, the Anti-Corruption Commission.
Let we join hands with ICPC, make them better.
Let's make Nigeria great again.
ICPC, they watch you.
One hand for corruption.
Break the chain of corruption now. Don't give, don't take. This message is...
Since its adoption at the second ordinary session of the Assembly of the African Union in Maputo, Mozambique in 2003, July 11th every year has been dedicated to celebrating the Africa Union Anti-Corruption Day. This important continental annual event showcases Africa's effort at preventing and combating corruption. Welcome to Corruption Must Go, ICPC's weekly television program. I am your host, Hawasani Garba. Today on the program, we shall beam our searchlight on the 2023 celebration of the African Union Anti-Corruption Day, which coincidentally happens to be the 20th anniversary of the adoption of the African Union Convention on Preventing and Combating Corruption, often referred to as AU Anti-Corruption Day. But first, Ruth is standing by with updates on happenings around the world of the Commission. Over to you, Ruth.
Welcome to this segment on anti-corruption stories. I am Ruth Awudi. ICPC has arraigned an official of the Federal Road Safety Corps, FRSC, Achijile Ralph Ogili, and two others, Sunday Okpara and Razak Abdurrahman Dabiri, over allegations of conspiracy and falsification of documents. The trio were arraigned before Honorable Justice J.E. Obano of the Federal Capital Territory High Court 29, sitting in Jabi, Abuja, Nigeria's capital. In a charge filed before the trial court, the commission alleged that the first accused person, Ogili, used a forged University of Abuja statement of results to support his application for upgrading in the corps. He was also accused of forging a letter confirming the fake statement of results as genuine, purportedly written by the Deputy Registrar Academics of the university. On the other hand, both the second and third defendants were charged for their complicity in the forged letter confirming the fake statement of results as genuine. The accused persons entered a not guilty plea when the charges were read to them, and their lawyers, in 3 separate motions, raised bail applications on their behalf, which were not opposed by the prosecution counsel, Dorothy Suleiman. The defendants were then admitted to bail in the sum of 500,000 naira and a surety in like sum who must reside within the jurisdiction of the court. The matter has been adjourned for commencement of hearing. And from the Osun State Office, the Sector Commandant of the Federal Road Safety Corps, FRSC Osun State Command, Mr. Henry Benemisia, has pledged his support for the anti-corruption campaign in order to make Nigeria a better society. Speaking during a courtesy visit to his command by officials of ICPC, Mr. Benemisia commended ICPC officials for exhibiting professionalism and dedication in the performance of their duty. He maintained that due to the high level of corruption in the society, there was need for collaboration between agencies of government to entrench zero tolerance for corruption. Earlier in his address, the resident Anti-Corruption Commissioner, Osun State, Mr. Demola Bakari, FSI, explained that the visit by ICPC officials to the command was to boost the robust relationship that existed between both agencies and to also enlighten them on the campaign for behavioral change being pursued by ICPC for a better society.
If you are just tuning in, this is Corruption Must Go, and our focus is on the commemoration of the 20th anniversary of the AU Convention on Preventing and Combating Corruption, which had at its theme African Union Convention on Preventing and Combating Corruption, 20 years after, achievements and prospects. As it has been the tradition over the years, the Interagency Task Team of Anti-Corruption Agencies, comprising ICPC and other sister agencies in Abuja and some states of the Federation, with the Technical Unit on Governance and Anti-Corruption TUGA, lined up a series of programs to mark this day.
The United Nations, the world over, let me signpost this by saying that corruption is not a native of Nigeria. It's a global citizen. It's found anywhere all over the world. But the corruption problem has implications for the local environment as well as the international environment.
You are still watching Corruption Must Go, and our focus is on the commemoration of the 2023 AU Anti-Corruption Day. The common view held about Africa is that the continent has a corruption problem. From research analysis to media reports, a grim picture of the continent is painted. Speaking during the events, the ICPC chairman, Professor Bolaji Owansaonye, SAN, who was represented by the Director, Proceeds of Crime Department, Mr. Kayode Adedayo, stated that although corruption is a global problem, its negative effect is mostly felt by developing countries, especially the African continent. He, however, acknowledged that the Union has to a good extent improved the awareness of member states on the need to put corruption on the front burner of development agenda.
Corruption is a global problem, but its effect on developing countries, particularly Africa, are horrendous. As Kofi Annan, former UN Secretary General, famously said at the foreword to the United Nations Convention Against Corruption. Corruption is an insidious plague that has a wide range of corrosive effects on societies. It undermines democracy and the rule of law, leads to violation of human rights, distorts markets, erodes the quality of life, and allows organized crime, terrorism, and other threats to human security to flourish. This evil phenomenon is found in all countries, big and small, rich and poor. But it is in the developing world that its effects are most destructive. Corruption hurts the poor disproportionately by diverting funds intended for development, undermining government ability to provide basic services, feeding inequalities and injustice, and discouraging foreign aid and investment. Corruption is a key element in economic underperformance and a major obstacle to poverty alleviations and development.
In his keynote address, the National Security Advisor, Mr. Nuhu Ribadu, who was represented by Brigadier General Adamu Laka, noted that corruption impacts economy, politics, and national security.
It is common knowledge, which requires no emphasis, that corruption is a war that has regrettably permeated virtually every segment of our society, with attendant consequence on the polity, economy, and security of the continent. In the public sector, it has taken a considerable toll on government's capacity to effectively meet its obligations of providing security and welfare for its citizens in fulfillment of the primary reason for governance. polarization and want stokes frustration among citizens, which could push some of them into committing all forms of vices in a bid to overcome poor quality of life and living standards. This is because corruption entails this mistreatment of public resources just for getting some unfair advantage through the use of power and position by anyone, whether in the government or non-governmental organization, to the detriment of others. Indeed, the consequence of corruption or insecurity were clearly captured in the famed assertion of Mr. President, the former president, which he said, and I quote, "If we don't kill corruption, corruption will kill us," end of quote. It is therefore instructive to understand that whether in the public or private sector, if corruption creates poverty, hunger, unemployment, among others, it could generate insecurity at various levels. This can easily be exemplified in the case of unemployment, where the lack of basic necessities of life could lure people to engage in various vices at the slightest opportunities.
Earlier in her remarks, the head of the Technical Unit on Governance and Anti-Corruption Reforms, Mrs. Jane Onwumere, explained that since the establishment of the union, a lot of progress has been made in the fight against corruption in Africa. Let us hear from her.
The African Union Convention on Preventing and Combating Corruption, the AUCPCC, was adopted on the 11th of July 2003 and therefore today marks 20 years since its adoption. This convention was developed to encourage and assist member states on the continent to fight corruption and to promote good governance. The theme for this year is AUCPCC 20 years after, achievements and prospects. This momentous occasion provides stakeholders across the continent from various sectors, including the state and non-state actors, not only an important platform to highlight the gains made or successes achieved, but critically to also consider the debilitating effects of corruption on economic growth and development of the 55 countries of our continent. And we ought to do much better 20 years on. This year's commemoration therefore provides us with a unique opportunity for deep sober reflection, learning, re-energizing, and action. The AU Advisory Board Against Corruption therefore takes this opportunity to encourage all stakeholders in the anti-corruption space across the continent of Africa to use the occasion and subsequent weeks and months till the end of 2023 to organize events that consider the progress made and challenges faced and focus on the prospects of what new strategies need to be deployed for accelerated and substantive results relating to minimizing corruption on the continent over the next 2 decades.
The 20th anniversary celebration further dovetailed into paper presentations by Lilia Ikianyawo of UNODC and Dr. Esa Onoja, Chief of Staff to the ICPC Chairman.
A few facts about the African Union Convention. As earlier stated by some speakers, it was adopted on the 11th of July 2003, but it actually came into force on the 5th of August 2006 after deposit of instrument of ratification by the 15th member. At the moment, 48 countries have ratified this convention, which is significant progress when you think about the number of African countries. We have just about 54. And if you look at the countries who are yet to ratify, you will see that the countries are the ones that have challenges in other areas, countries like Somalia, South Sudan. In effect, most African countries have signed up to this convention. as stated in the convention, is to promote mechanisms and ensure cooperation among state parties in the fight against corruption, and establish certain offenses such as bribes, illicit enrichment, and also strengthen national controls to ensure compliance by foreign countries. And most importantly, establish, maintain, and strengthen independent anti-corruption agencies. Also quite interesting are the principles underpinning the convention itself, as stated. Respect for democratic principles and institutions, popular participation, the rule of law, and good governance.
Article 4 of the African Union Convention on Preventing and Combating Corruption has an element of asset recovery, repatriation, and tracing. Its elder brother, so to speak, UNCAC, as Madam Lillian has said, because she said UNCAC has more content in certain respects than the African Union Convention. UNCAC devoted an entire chapter, chapter 5, to asset recovery. And specifically, Article 51 provides that asset recovery is a fundamental principle of UNCAC. But we are to speak to the role that asset recovery and return can play in the matrix of sustainable development. This is just one of the visions of the SDGs. It says a world free of poverty, hunger, disease, and want, where all life can thrive. We envisage a world free of fear and violence, a world with universal literacy, a world with equitable and universal access to quality education at all levels, to healthcare and social protection, where physical, mental, and social well-being are assured. A world where we affirm our commitments regarding the human right to safe drinking water and sanitation, and where there's improved hygiene, and where there's food, where food is sufficient, safe, affordable, and nutritious. A world where human habitats are safe, resilient, and sustainable, and where there's universal access to affordable, reliable, and sustainable energy. So if you look more in greater detail at the other visions, you will find references to security, references to the absence of war. For us in the West African sub-region, we can all testify to the fact that we face peculiar threats. And some of these threats are directly traceable to corruption. They are traceable to the flight of our natural endowments to foreign jurisdictions. So the question I am to walk us through is how the common African position on asset recovery can help in recovering some of the assets that have been consigned to foreign jurisdictions, and how perhaps we can prevent those assets from living here in the first place.
The event also featured goodwill messages from invited organizations and dignitaries. Observing such international events encourages the people to speak up against corruption, and by so doing, they will not only contribute to the progress of humanity, but help lay the foundation for a stable, healthy, and happy nation. Remember, corruption is an ill wind that blows no one any good. Funds lost to it are 10 times the amount of official development assistance. Let us all speak up against it rather than becoming silent praise to the monster. That's our package on this week's edition. You can watch the program on our YouTube channel www.youtube.com/ICPC Nigeria. And don't forget to follow us on our social media platforms showing on your screen. And call us toll-free on the number also showing on your screen. See you again this time next week. Bye for now.